Hello. Welcome to the Business of Cake Making podcast. Today, we're amazing.
You've actually forgotten what we're doing. She's Sammy, by the way.
Oh, yeah. She's Bronya. Just so you know who we are.
We're such professionals. You've actually completely frozen as well.
Oh, am I back now?
No.
Oh, well, I'm doing a little dance.
You're in a good pose. You're like...
Well, that's good.
Like that.
That's good.
So it's fine.
Well, I'm here.
Yeah, it's fine.
I am here.
Oh, anyway. Hello. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm a bit tired. Been very busy, and I think it's caught up with me today. I've just taken my boots off because my feet went, just take them off now.
Take them away. Leave me alone.
And the sofa's going, sit on me.
First thing I do when I get in is take my shoes off every time.
Oh, well, I normally go back out because I've got to walk the dogs, take them for a little wee wee.
Yes, that's true.
And so it's easier if I just keep them on. I hoover a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I would just go out in slippers, I think, in the end.
Well, it's not quite nearly time. Where I can do.
Nearly time for slipper time.
Yeah. At the moment, it's still too muddy outside.
Yes, it is. And it poured down yesterday, didn't it? Was it yesterday or the day before?
No,
there was one day that it rained
yesterday,
this week.
Yeah. So still a bit muddy.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Clocks changed this
I
weekend.
know, it's so exciting.
It's my favourite weekend of the year. Clock change weekend.
Got my summer pyjamas out.
Oh, you're optimistic. Oh, however, saying that, we are having a log burner fitted the first week of April, so expect a heat wave.
It's exciting.
It will. Yeah, there will be a heat wave first week of April because we are having a log burner put in. But it's fine.
I hope not. I've got a wedding that week.
Oh, you don't want it too hot then, do you?
No.
I
think I've got 2 weddings.
Oh, wow. I've got a cake to make today.
Oh, gosh.
I know, it's been a bit of a shock to my system. I've made it, I've iced it. It's just a buttercream cake and it's like a massive slab. And I think it's basically going to look like a Costco cake by the time I've finished. But it's for work and it's a thank you cake for work.
Oh, that's very sweet.
No. Yeah, it's the end of our Warm Wednesdays at work, and so it's a thank you for our volunteers at work. So that's what I'm doing after this podcast today. At the moment, it just looks like a massive packet of butter because it's just like a big buttercreamed cake.
I love it.
So it just looks like a big bit of butter. Right, so come on, tell me about what happened since last week, because last week you were talking about getting your horse box. What happened?
Well, it's here. It's arrived. It arrived Saturday, and we were all over it like a ton of bricks. Is that what you'd say? Well, I don't know. It sounds quite right. So Saturday. So I'm storing it at I had a change of plan because I was going to store it at my friend's place. Yeah. And I had a change of plan. I changed my mind last minute. So I'm now storing it at my other friend's place.
Is it closer? Is it a closer friend?
It's closer. Okay. And it's near all the shops, and it's also near my sister. So I can do 3 in 1.
Get 3 lots done.
So I've had my tow bar fitted. That's all sorted. My waffle box has been delivered, and it's amazing. And already Sid, my partner, I guess.
Business partner.
Yeah. We've been like, right, we need to do this. We're going to change this.
Have you booked any events?
No, we're having a meeting tomorrow. I have got one potential festival lined up for July.
Right.
But we're having a meeting tomorrow so we can sit and take our lists and put them into who's doing what. Because at the moment we're going, well, I'll do this and I'll do that. No. So we're going to sort that out and get that sorted. So that's my next plan of action.
It's so exciting.
But I had a moment. So it arrived and I was like, wow, it's amazing. And I spent 2 hours up there.
Yeah.
And it was as if my body went, oh, what have you done? I got really overcome with emotion and like, oh my God, it's actually happening now.
Yeah. Did you get cold feet a little bit?
Not cold feet. It was more apprehension, I guess. I just don't know how it's going to go. I know it's going to be a success. Of course it is.
Yeah.
And
of course it is. You're doing it. Of course it is.
And then I went back up again on Sunday and had another look, which was nice actually, because I saw it. I went with my sisters and they were going, oh, look at this. And they were seeing other things that I hadn't noticed before. And my sister Emma I said, oh, I'm going to put a little work surfaces in here because there's a dead area. There's like a corner with no work surface. I said, I'll put work surface here, and I put some shelves in. And she went, oh, there's a little space for the dogs in there. So I could put the dogs in there, health and safety conscious and all of that stuff as well.
Yes. Oh, so when are you getting your graphics?
They're still, it's my fault. Sid will do them and I'll go, oh, I like it, but... So it's my fault they're being held up. But we've got a photo shoot.
But you want it to be perfect, don't you? You want it to be perfect.
So we've got a photo shoot arranged for the 16th of April. So we have to be...
Oh, okay.
We have to be ready.
Get to be done by then. Oh, that's not bad. That's 3 weeks?
Yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah. I'm not in panic mode yet. So I think after our meeting tomorrow, when we've take our millions of lists and everything that we've been talking about all this time and... actually go, right, you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this.
You've got a plan of action then, haven't you?
Yeah. So we're a bit up in the air at the moment. Poor Sid, it's me. Like, she sent me business cards this morning. I went, oh, they're great. But
But you want it to be perfect. You want it to be just right.
I didn't know I was so
and you'll
picky.
see things that she won't.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is that she's doing it, and it's like a cake, isn't it? Though you stand and work with the cake for so long, and you kind of go, it's just got to be done. It's just done.
Yeah.
So it's and you just want it to be right, and that's that's how it is.
My waffle machines arrived. I've got a percolator because I do want a coffee machine. But I'm not sure my budget will run to it at the moment. So
they're not cheap.
I've compromised.
They're not cheap. And also with the coffee machine, you've got to take water.
Oh, I've got hot and cold water. Hot and cold.
But you've got to store your water, haven't you? I mean, if you're doing lots of coffees, you've got to do a lot of water to go with your coffee, haven't you? And also you've got somewhere. If you've got a coffee machine, you've got to take a lot of milk with you.
Milk. I've got fridges, 2 fridges in there. Me and Emma went, oh, do you think the fridge will fit in there? And so we moved everything around, ripped all the lino. Nah, it wouldn't fit.
So you stuck the lino back down really quickly, pretended it didn't happen.
There's little things like the equipment and tongs and dustpan and brush, which I've been buying incrementally.
But you will find there will always be something you can, and I remember I used to do a lot of exhibitions, when I was with Frida. I used to do a lot of exhibitions, and we used to always have a list of things that we need for next time.
Yeah.
Because you just had, we back then it wasn't a phone, we actually had like a paper list, and we actually had some drawers, some plastic pull-out drawers, which had like silly things like, I mean, we were doing a shoe stand, but it's things like, scissors, stapler, all that sort of stuff.
Tape.
And so you need a things for next time list, which you just need to double check it every time you're doing it.
Emma, bless her, my sister, when I went up there earlier, she had my dogs for me this morning. She said, "Oh, do you want this?" And it's a huge bucket, and it's full of detergents, cloths. Sprays, Dettol, all that sort of stuff. She said, "Oh, we've got too much here. You have this." And the bucket, So, we'll get there. I think.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, slowly, quickly.
Yes, it'll be fine. It'll be all good, and you'll be up and running by summer, and you'll be good. You'll be good. So we technically right. So we won't have an update from you next week because we're actually just about to record next week's episode today. Yes. So we won't have. And then after next week we've got 2 weeks off, and then we'll be back and we will talk about what's going on, and
because I think that'll be
have another update.
The photo shoot.
Yes, which is actually April 16th, my birthday.
Yes,
you're having a photo shoot on my birthday. Lovely.
You should come
do you know a lot's happening that day?
What are you doing?
Well, lots happening that day. I'm off work for 2 weeks, and our cook at work having her shoulder stapled that day as well.
Wow.
Yeah, nasty operation she's having. She's got 4 months off. Nuts. Absolutely nuts.
Poor woman.
Poor
woman. She'll
poor woman. She had a hip replacement last year. Yeah. She's younger than I am. She's a year younger than me. Poor love.
That's awful.
Poor love. So, yeah. But once it's done, she keeps saying, once I've got my hip done, once I've got my shoulder done, she's already had, I think it's her knee or her ankle done. She is basically half robotic.
Made of titanium.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. I said, you are the bionic woman, aren't you? She said, yeah, pretty much. Yes. So this week we are doing a re-release of a previous episode.
Yes.
And the reason we're doing this is because we decided we wanted to update this episode. So this episode is episode 29. When was it? July 24?
It was 2020.
No,
it was July 2021, I believe.
It was a long time. It was a long time ago. It was just after COVID. We were just coming out of COVID, weren't we? So it was a long time ago, and we thought we wanted to re-update it, and we've both gone back and listened to it, and actually it's quite a good episode.
Yeah, well, I listened twice.
Yeah, I just listened the once, but considering it's our episode, I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. It was quite nice, and funny how also I still do most of the stuff, but some of it I've tweaked along the way and do it slightly differently now.
So it was all about baking hints and tips, and so it was 4 years ago, and we've changed. A lot's changed in that 4 years about how we do things. Not a lot, but bits and pieces have changed in that 4 years. So we are just going to re-release that, because the other thing that I found is that if you go back on Spotify, you can't go that far back. Yeah. So if you're listening on Spotify, you can't go back to episode 29. So if you're struggling to find this one, we're just going to re-release it, and so we're going to put it out there again.
Hey, I don't know where that came from. It just fell out my mouth.
So we're going to I hope you enjoy, and if you have already listened to it, we hope you enjoy it again. I mean, Sammy listened to it twice in the last week, so it can't be that awful. We hope. But and then next week we were going to do an updated version of things we might have slightly changed, things we might not have changed, and new things that we've learnt in the 4 years. So enjoy.
Yeah.
Right, but should we talk about baking tips?
Yeah.
Right, I'm going to do a really, really quick rundown of the science behind baking, because the tips, I think unless you understand the science behind it, it's difficult to understand why we're giving you the tips, if that makes sense.
Because there's some words there that I can't actually say.
Okay, hydroscopic, is that the word?
Yes,
yeah, okay.
Yes.
Right, okay. So we're talking mainly about normal, fully loaded baking. We're not talking about gluten-free or vegan or fat or dairy-free or anything like that. We are talking classic cake making, okay? So in classic cake making, you have 5 ingredients. You have a fat, which is either a butter or an oil, and fat gives you flavour. You have sugar. Sugar adds sweetness, and it is hygroscopic, which means it can absorb moisture. So sugar is actually considered a wet ingredient, and anyone who's been struggling with making fondant figures or sugar flours, and everything is sweating like a pig at the moment in this humid air, it's because sugar is hygroscopic and it's taking on all the humidity. So that's why all your cakes are sweating at the moment.
Oh, that's very interesting.
There you go.
I'm going to use that word.
Hygroscopic. Right, so you also have eggs. Eggs are a protein, so that builds structure, and it also has fat in it to add to your flavour. Then you have flour. Flour is, I'm talking about wheat flour, so it has gluten in it. So the gluten is the real building blocks of baking. They are protein, so gluten is a protein, and that's why if you're doing gluten-free, it's generally crumblier because it's not the protein that builds the structure. And lastly, you have a raising agent, so a baking soda, bicarb soda, baking powder, or air, which will increase with the hot air in the oven, which will give you your light, fluffy cakes. You also have, obviously, flavours, other ingredients for texture, blah, 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 blah. Right, so there are your 5 main ingredients.
Yes.
Oh, this is like a crash course in science. Right, so the normal creaming method, of course there's other methods like reverse creaming and other stuff. So first off, you usually cream your sugar and butter together. Creaming your sugar and butter will whip air into your butter, will whip air into your mix. It will also start the sugar absorbing the liquid in your fat. It will also kind of take off the edge off your sugar, so it starts to dissolve it a little bit. You then add your eggs, one at a time. So your eggs are your protein, and that will add the structure, which will allow air to expand. Eggs are liquid, butter is a fat. Fat and liquid don't like to mix. So what happens is they don't actually mix, they emulsify, which means that you little pockets of air in your fat. So I think about little pockets of air in your fat, which your liquid can sit in. And that's what happens. So that's why you have to do it slowly. If you add too much liquid, it will curdle. So you will then lose all the air and everything you've whipped into it. If it begins to curdle, add a tiny little bit of flour. But lastly, you add your flour and you add your raising agent and you mix that as little as possible, because you don't want to develop your gluten strands, because otherwise you're going to have bread or a bready texture. Then you bake in the oven, the heat will expand all the air and you'll have a light fluffy cake, and then the sugar will caramelise and you'll have a nice golden colour.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes, I really enjoyed that.
We do have a blog post, actually. If you go onto daisycakecompany.co.uk, click on blogs, and there's a thing about ingredients on our blog, and that is what I've just said.
Because that's quite, and the ingredients are quite important as well.
Yes, yeah. Because if you think about it, it amazes me that, because I made scones the other day, and scones are all the same ingredients as a cake, but the quantities make them a completely different product.
Yeah, there's hardly any sugar.
Yeah, it's hardly any sugar, but there is still.
But if you don't put the sugar in, if you forget.
but if you're making cookies or biscuits, again, it's all so it's still flour, sugar, eggs, and butter.
Yeah.
But they're just very ingredients
all being scientifically tweaked.
Yes, of course. Of course.
It always amazes me that how did they know all those years ago that this bit of wheat, let's grind it up and make it into bread and then into cakes. I know. And how did they go? Anyway, I digress.
How did they discover that? Who said, let's get this wheat and give it a bash with a stone? Incredible.
Yes.
I'm pleased they did, though.
Same.
Right, so our top tips.
Warm your oven. Mm-hmm. Warm your oven is very important. 5 minutes to warm its belly and 5 minutes to warm its walls.
I've never heard it put like that, but yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, because if you put the cake straight into the oven, it's got to come up to that temperature.
Yeah.
And all the development and the things that are happening will take longer. So they need to happen in that specific heat.
Yeah, it needs to happen straight. Yeah,
sense?
always preheat your oven. And that's the first thing I always do. Actually, I walk into the kitchen, I turn the oven on before I do anything else.
Yeah,
oven goes on.
Yeah,
every single time.
Yeah.
My first tip, I would say, if you're not into baking, because a lot of people do like just the decorating side of it, they're not really into the baking side of it. Unlike us two, who are a little bit nuts about baking, some people do prefer the decorating. I would say master 3 recipes. Really good. Because there's nothing worse than having a cake that looks amazing and then opening it and go, oh God, it was so dry. It didn't taste very nice. And you're not going to get you're not going to get repeat orders doing that. So choose 3. I would do a vanilla, a chocolate, and maybe one other, I don't know, a lemon or something.
Lemon.
Yeah. And really
raspberry and white chocolate.
Stop. But really master those 3 recipes. So when someone says what flavours you offer, you only offer 3 flavours, but they are going to be really good and they're going to get repeat custom.
When they go, what's your signature bakes? You can go, these are my 3 that I'm amazing at.
But let's face it, most flavour cakes, you can doctor a good vanilla recipe to get most flavours.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Bit of coffee cake. Easy.
Bit of lemon cake.
Exactly.
Bit of cherry
cake.
Some raspberries.
Raspberry cake.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. Measure and weigh your ingredients. This I get really when people help me bake and they don't measure it exactly, like with the level teaspoon. I get a bit upset because I think it's not going to be perfect if you just throw it in willy-nilly. But there are people who can do that, aren't there?
There are. Yeah, there are.
But I'm not one of those.
No.
I think you should follow the recipe to the
do it properly. The other thing is, though, I think there are certain things like cookies you can get away with being a bit lax. Brownies you can get away with not. But cake, you've got to be precise on cake.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of recipes online that come from America and Australia, and they're all like cup measurements. I would say weigh stuff. Always weigh.
Because when you go to Google, other appliances are available. And I say, what is the different cup sizes for this and what is the different cup sizes for that? They will be different weights for different things.
Yeah.
Like with flour and sugar, if you weigh them out, they weigh a completely different amount.
And because like if a cup of marshmallows is much lighter than a cup of sugar, and then a cup of packed sugar, like brown sugar, you really pack it in. Yeah. Now, I was a bit of a geek the other day, because I thought, I'm going to look these up online. So there's also another problem you've got. In America, your US cup size is 240 millilitres. Your Australian cup size is 250 millilitres.
What?
Yes.
That's just
so
silly.
They're different. So, and then in the UK, a tablespoon is 15 millilitres, which is 3 teaspoons. In Australia, a tablespoon is 4 teaspoons, which is 20 millilitres.
Didn't know that.
No. That's
really interesting.
And the other thing is, if you pick up an American recipe, they often talk about sticks of butter.
Yeah.
So in the UK, a packet of butter is 250 grams. Yeah. A stick of butter is actually 113 grams.
Oh my God.
So
that's so crazy.
Yeah. And just one more, because in the US, a pint. So I would always measure in metric, because metric is just more accurate. 1 ounce in imperial is the equivalent of 28 grams. But in the US, a pint, so an imperial pint in the US is 2 cups, which is 480 millilitres. In the UK and Australia, a pint is 600 millilitres. That's 120 millilitres difference.
Oh, no wonder.
No wonder recipes don't work.
My God.
So I would always measure, and I would always use metric. I know my mum would always do the 3 eggs for 6 ounces thing for a vanilla cake, but I would always go metric, always go grams, personally.
Yeah, I prefer it. It just flows so much easier.
And also buy yourself a decent set of scales that you can put the bowl on and make it 0.
Yeah, my latest set of scales, because I dropped my favourite ones and broke them. This one does grams, kilograms, pounds, milk, water. does loads.
Wow.
It's got loads on it, so I have to make sure I reset it each time.
To the right thing. I thought
push the button.
You're measuring milk instead of flour. My scales are Weight Watchers scales. They'll tell you how many points there are in all the food.
Well, those are the ones I had before.
Yeah, they are good.
They were very special.
They are
I
good.
dropped them and I did break them.
Oh, good.
There you go. You have to put a link for that in the show notes.
Yeah, Weight Watchers scales. Even tells you how many points you're eating. Right, so my next tip is try to have all your ingredients at the same temperature. So this is talking about like the emulsifying. So if you've got cold butter and you're trying to put warm eggs into them, it's not going to emulsify quite so well. So I know butter you can't have completely warm because it'll melt and it's not hygienic and they should be kept in the fridge, but try to get everything at like a room temperature before you start baking.
What I do in the mornings is I take 3 slabs of butter out of the fridge.
Oh, do you?
To sit at room temperature, to come to room temperature, ready for me to make butter icing.
Yes.
Whenever I do it.
Yeah.
That's how I do it.
Oh, I've got another tip about butter icing, but we'll come to that later.
Exciting. Use plain flour with baking powder rather than self-raising.
Yes.
And don't substitute baking powder and bicarb. They work in different ways and are not interchangeable. Now, I spent ages, I went off on a tangent, reading all about bicarbonate of soda and baking powder and why they are different. And I can tell you, but I just can't put it into words because it was so complicated. But so I do occasionally bake with self-raising flour.
Do you?
But I do, yeah. Once in a blue moon, I have my personal home recipe for lemon drizzle cake. Uses self-raising flour, but my professional recipe doesn't.
It's plain flour.
So, yeah. And even though I think my personal recipe is better, I like to keep it back because my lemon cake's pretty amazing.
Do you know what? Your lemon cake is legendary. Legendary lemon cake. It really is. Legendary. Definitely. The reason I always use plain flour and like a raising agent separately is firstly, flour is kept in paper bags, so it can get moisture into it. So your raising agent might start working because sometimes because I think baking powder starts working through moisture, doesn't it?
Yeah. And if you've got self-raising flour, which is what you were just saying, really, basically, I'm just repeating what you're saying. If you've got self-raising flour and you've had it in your cupboard for, say, 3 years, and then you go to bake with it,
it won't work.
It's probably not going to work.
Yeah, it won't work. Yeah, because and you don't know how long that self-raising flour's been sat around in a warehouse somewhere either.
That's right.
But also with plain flour, you can. So our chocolate cake recipe has got both baking powder and bicarbonate of soda in. I think self-raising flour is something like I don't know exactly what it is, but I think it's flour plus baking powder plus a bit of salt. Yeah. Whereas plain flour, you're putting your own raising agent in, so you are controlling your own raising agent. Baking powder, I think that's activated by water, whereas bicarb is activated by an acid, so like a buttermilk or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think the bicarb works instantly, so it starts puffing up instantly, whereas baking powder, it has to wait for the heat to activate it a little bit more, so it's got like a bit of a longer burn.
That's exactly right.
Thank you.
that was all up in my head. You're amazing.
But that's why if you've got our chocolate cake, the bicarb will give it an instant burst, and then because it's got a heavy melted chocolate in it, which will weigh it back down again, the baking powder then will keep it going a little bit longer, so it'll keep it expanding a little bit longer. And they work by releasing carbon dioxide, which creates air bubbles, which then expand in the heat.
Yes.
God, it's like a science lesson today.
It is. It's just what it is. It's like I said, it's magic and science.
It is.
And you put them together.
But do you not think, though, with all the science, some days, even with all the science and all your knowledge, some days it just don't work?
Goes wrong. Yeah. I had a salted caramel cake do that thing where it implodes. I guess that's just where we call it an imploding. It's just like a black hole of cake.
But did you eat it with custard and it was all okay?
No, I didn't actually. I'm trying to be very good at the moment because of lockdown. And stuff.
Lockdown chins.
Yes. Chins. Okay. Right. Moving on to the next point.
Yep.
Use an oven thermometer.
Yes.
Bake low and slow for flatter cakes.
Yes. Have you got an oven thermometer? I haven't got one. I keep promising that I'm going to buy myself one.
Yeah, I really recommend doing it. You just pop it on one of the shelves.
Yeah.
And you may think that your cake bakes at 150 degrees centigrade, but over time it's changed slightly. You can recalibrate your ovens. Not all ovens can do it, but if you take off the oven switch,
right,
the knob, and look at it, it might have a calibration button inside it.
Really?
Yeah. Not all ovens have them, but you can sort the temperature out in your oven by having one of these. But a thermometer does the job as well.
I'm straight after we've recorded this, I'm going to go and check my oven knobs.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So,
wow. What temperature do you bake your ovens at? Your ovens? Do you bake your cakes at?
I bake the majority of mine at 150 degrees centigrade.
Yeah, I do.
But there are some that cook better with a higher temperature.
Yeah.
They're the cakes that are, say, something a little bit different. If I'm doing a different recipe and it's not following my stereotypical creaming method, that's when it'll probably go up.
Right. Yeah, I always bake at 150, always. Yeah. And the reason that it won't dome as much is because if you bake your cakes too hot, the outside of your cakes are the bit that bakes first. So as your cakes are rising, so if you've cooked it really hot, your outside of your cake will cook really, really hot. And as your cakes are then cooking, the middle bit has got nowhere to rise. So therefore it kind of blows out like a dome. And that's when you get a dome if you cook too quickly. Whereas if you bake it low and slow, it all bakes at like an even rate. So it'll all rise at the same rate. Can you see my hands doing the...
Yeah. But you also get less waste doing it that
much
way.
Less.
Yeah, because if you're baking it with a dome on it, you have to cut that dome off to get your nice level cake when you stack them together. And then you either eat that bit or make it into something or throw it away.
But it means that you've got to make more in order to cut stuff off. So it's got to be cheaper. Yeah. It's got to be cheaper in the long run to not be wasting your cake. My next one, and it's funny because something came up on Facebook today about someone asking how people bake their larger cakes, because this person had baked 2 10-inch cakes that were 3 inches deep, and they hadn't baked in the middle. So my next tip is don't bake too much at once in one pan. So I always bake individual layers. I never bake 2 layers and cut them in half. I always bake individual layers because they bake more evenly. They bake more consistently. They're lighter. And you don't get that nasty chewy stuff in the middle where it all kind of collapses down on itself and it can't cope with its own weight and everything. So I always bake individual layers. Never come in, unless occasionally for chocolate I do, but that's a bit for denser cake anyway.
I don't like it when everybody's individual, but personally I don't like it having to cut one layer into 2 to make you 4.
No.
Tier. Yeah.
I would rather have 4 separate layers all baked as 4 bits. But can you remember? I remember at the shop but it was a square cake, and we didn't have enough square tins, so we tried to bake a vanilla cake in a square tin, and I think we were trying to bake 3 layers, and we were going to slice it into 3. Yeah. And the middle was so tough and so dense, and it's because your cake rises and then it can't support itself, so it kind of all collapses back in the middle, and then that middle bit was just like, it was just like really chewy in the middle.
Oh, it's horrible. It's claggy.
Good word. Claggy. So I've got 4 tins of every single size of cake. That's 3 or 4 tins, yeah, and I bake them all in one go. I never bake 2 and then try and cut them in half. Never.
No, I don't know. Right. Next. Oh, it's me, isn't it? And have we done don't overcrowd your oven?
No, not yet. We haven't done that yet.
So, don't overcrowd your oven.
Yeah, don't overcrowd your oven.
Because it affects the temperature of the cakes. You've got 10 cakes there. Not that my oven can get 10 cakes.
Yeah, I wish. God.
Yeah. So you've got here we go. This is what I did last week. I had 2 10 inches and 3 6 inches, and I think I had a 5 inch in there as well, just one. I'd really stuff them in, and they took forever to cook. We kept going back, checking them.
Yeah.
And it just went on. And I think they were in there for over an hour.
Really?
Yeah.
Just, there was too much in there.
There was just too much in there.
I guess it reduces heat because you're spending so long putting everything in. And also when you if you're putting cold baking pans in a hot oven, that's going to reduce the heat. But otherwise, I guess you don't get the flow of
No.
You don't get the flow of the heat round the oven, do you?
No. It's like squashing loads of people into a tube.
And then everyone overheats and passes out. Yeah, you're not getting the air circulation, I guess.
Right. So, in a way, you're thinking to yourself, right, I'm going to save time. I'm going to bake all these cakes. I'm going to stuff them in my oven.
Yeah.
Technically, you're not, because you're spending twice as long going back to the oven because they're just not cooking.
Yeah.
And then you're going to affect the bake because they've been in there so long.
Yeah.
The outside's going to be.
And then they're going to start to dry out rather than cook, aren't they?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Also, the other thing that can happen that I've had happen when I've overcrowded my oven is one of them gets pushed at an angle, and then when you come to when you come to take all your cakes out of the oven, one of them's on the wonk.
Yeah, and it's one corner of it is like an inch high, and the rest is 5 inches.
Yeah, one end's like a biscuit, and the other end's So that's what happens when I've overcrowded an oven. It's just that you're trying to put too much in, and then one goes, "No, I can't do it anymore," and it goes up on an angle.
And the customers do notice when they cut into their cakes. And you haven't levelled them all to exactly the same size. It looks so nice when you cut into a cake and
they're all the same
layer is exactly the same.
See, how do you level your cakes? Because I've got an Agbe that I level mine with.
Yeah,
I've got an Agbe. Yeah,
I've got a knife. I've got a bread knife.
See,
but when I cut my cake now, I used to cut straight across.
Yeah, you have to turn it, don't you?
Yeah, you cut a little bit, then turn it. Cut a little bit, then turn it.
Yes.
And I have very rarely now get any like wonky cakes.
Yeah. See, though I've got an Agbe, I don't actually know where it is because I haven't used it for so long. And I think it's because when it comes to wedding cakes, I'll use it when it comes back to wedding cakes, because wedding cakes.
Oh, when it's the little 5 or 6 inch cakes.
Yeah, and it's like, you know what, I can cope with doing that by eye, a little 5 or 6 inch. Yeah. But I think now cakes getting bigger again, I'm going to have to find the Agbe. I don't know where it is. It's in the kitchen somewhere. Who knows where?
Oh.
Yeah, but yeah, and also when they cut wedding cakes, they cut them and they all get laid out on a table, don't they? So you can see if someone has. I remember being a guest at a wedding, and there was this beautiful, beautiful cake, and they cut it all up, and one of the tiers, I think, had two layers that were like 1.5 inches, and then a layer that was like 3 inches. And you could see, and it's like, why did you not just cut that in half and put some filling in it?
Yeah.
But, right, and then this is the one that everyone should know, but we all still do it. Do not open your oven too soon.
Yes.
Because your cakes may sink.
Yes. And there is no coming back from that.
There's no coming back from it. So what happens is that your cakes are all nice in the oven and they're all warm and all the air's expanding in the warm and they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger and all lovely. And then you open your oven and a big cold gust of wind comes in and pops all your lovely hot air in the middle of your cake. And it goes, ugh, and that's it.
Yeah.
And it's never, or you slam the oven door and that pops all the bubbles.
Yeah. Don't bang it.
No.
Don't bang your oven. Even my kids know that.
Yeah, do not
going wrong.
Do not bang the oven door.
The oven.
So I always bake at 150 degrees for about half an hour, but I will not open the door for at least 20 minutes.
Yeah. And that is also because your cake hasn't crusted as well. So
yes.
Once it's crusted, it's less likely to sink. So you know, when the cakes are at that, it's almost like they're liquid molten. You know, what's this? Lava.
Yes. Yeah.
In there, it's really wobbly.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, if you put your hand in there, it's going to be hot slop.
Yeah. Also, have you ever done that thing where you think they're done and it has actually crusted on the top, and then you put your cake tester in the middle and you clearly pop something inside, and as you put that cake tester in, it goes, and it's like, I just did that. I watched myself do that. Yeah. But yeah, I always say at least 20 minutes.
Yeah, just put them in and leave them, but don't forget to set your timer.
Walk away.
That is one of my top tips today. Don't forget to set a timer.
Yes, definitely.
Because how many times have you gone, it's in the oven.
How long's it been in there?
Get out of my way. Yeah. I can smell the cake. Yeah, if you can smell the cake, it's cooked. It's baked.
Yeah, because I mean, that's the thing, is that as a cake maker, I don't smell cake anymore. I very rarely smell cake baking. And I remember when we were at the shop, people used to walk into the shop and go, oh, it smells delicious in here. And we used to go, does it? Didn't smell any different to us. And if you begin to smell the cake baked, it means it's...
Yeah. Oh, crap, I've got to do it again. There's nothing worse than going to have to bake it again.
When you've done all that, you've just finished the washing up.
You use your last 2 eggs.
Oh, the experience and the heartache.
Yeah. Let's hope that we can stop any you listeners.
Yeah.
We don't want any heartache.
No heartache. Set a timer. I've got a timer on my oven now.
Have you?
Yeah.
And does it carry on going off after its first minute of beeping?
No, I think it goes off for about 30 seconds. So if you're sat in the garden or something, you've lost it. Yeah. Phones are a wonderful thing, though.
Yeah. Google.
Yeah.
And other things.
Yeah, definitely.
Going on to the next tip.
Mm-hmm.
Always use real butter when making buttercream.
Yes.
Don't use margarine. So I've actually written down some things about butter.
Oh, okay.
Because so you go to Asda, say, and you look at the butter counter, and there are loads of them. There's Asda's Own, there's Smart Price, there's Country Life, Lurpak, Anchor.
Thousands
of them.
Which
one do you choose? Thousands. So I always go for unsalted.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Because it tastes scrumptious. But I like to experiment. So I always make up, I think you're the same. You get your 3 pats of butter, ratio of 2 to 1.
Yes.
So you've got 1 part butter to 2 parts icing sugar.
So that would be 750 grams of butter. And 1.5 kilos of icing sugar.
And I've been buying 3 packs of Lurpak, 3 packs of Anchor, 3 packs of Country Life, 3 packs of Asda's Own, 3 packs of Tesco's Own.
Right.
And I've been trying them out to see which ones I like the best. Country Life, I hate.
Really?
Country Life, yeah, I just cannot get on with it. Lurpak, is the best.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like heaven. Anchor is I really like Anchor, but it's really moussey.
Right.
It's like more mousse-like. And then you've got Asda, Tesco's, Sainsbury's. I don't like Sainsbury's butter. Tesco's is okay. Asda's I really like.
Yeah.
And I guess, again, it's personal preference.
That's really that's really interesting. Because I know that you've got so if you're making something like croissants, you should always use something like President butter because it's got a higher fat content.
Oh yeah.
Because the only reason I remember this is from watching Bake Off the Professionals once when they used butter that wasn't the right butter and all this steam and everything came out the oven. So you have to use, so for things like croissants, you have to use like a really high fat content butter, and President is a really high fat content. But the rest of them, I just kind of thought they're all the same.
But they're and they taste different as well.
Really?
Yeah. And Lurpak is white.
Lurpak's whiter, isn't it?
And I've been baking for all these years, and it's only recently that I've been doing this experimenting with different butters. And it's
is it a taste thing or is it a texture thing?
Both.
Okay.
Both. So some are different in texture. It's like if you get icing sugar, some icing sugars in certain shops or certain brands I don't like to buy.
I refuse to buy Tate & Lyle. Absolutely refuse. Point back to buy Tate & Lyle icing sugar.
And Sainsbury's icing sugar.
Yeah, Sainsbury's is the same. I wonder if they get it from Tate & Lyle.
Yeah,
because I remember it was a few years ago. There was a massive problem with Tate & Lyle icing sugar in that they changed the anti-caking agent, and it made it really gritty and really great. And no matter how much you whipped it, you could not get rid of that gritty, grainy texture.
Or even sieving it as well.
Yeah. Oh God,
I mean, who wants to spend all that time double sieving
icing sugar? I can't be bothered to do the cleaning afterwards.
No, because it goes everywhere.
Yeah. But and also the reason to use real butter, to go back to the butter, the reason to use real butter is that if you use margarine, butter should be about 70% fat, whereas butter's higher than that. I should have checked that. Anyway, butter is a high proportion of fat, whereas margarine has got a higher proportion of water in. They put liquid in it, so they put moisture in it to make it spreadable, and that's why you shouldn't use spreadable butters or spreadable margarines, because then you have to put so much icing sugar in, and then the icing sugar, because it's hygroscopic, turns to liquid, and it's like making glacé, like a glaze icing. If you put a tiny little bit too much water in glaze icing, it just goes
that's
to
it.
Yeah,
that's rubbish.
Yeah. And that's what happens if you use margarine instead of butter and buttercream. And the amount of posts that I see on Facebook where they say, I've tried piping my buttercream and it's just gone squidgy and I don't understand why. And then it turns out they've used Stork.
Not the same. It's like using vegan butter in icing sugar. If you were trying to get vegan icing sugar, and you have to put so much icing sugar.
Have you seen the
butter?
Have you seen the new Flora ones? They're much better.
I love it. I've used it so much.
Yeah. The Flora plant-based block butter, I think it must have a really high fat content or something in it.
Must do. Because it actually feels like butter, doesn't it?
And it works like butter.
I would highly recommend.
I would. Definitely. Yeah.
Butter. And it is 80% fat in butter.
Have you just looked it up?
Yeah.
Well done. Because I think I was looking yesterday, because I was looking at some baking spreads yesterday when I went to Asda, and I think something like Stork is about 65-70%. So that's quite a big difference. That's like 10-15% of extra moisture that you're putting in it. That's quite a bit of difference when you're trying to beat it. And then it just gets so sweet, and it's like teeth achingly sweet, and it's like right.
We're quite fussy, really, aren't we?
Totally. Because we want the best bakes. Right, this isn't a baking necessarily tip, but this is something to make your cakes look better, and that is to learn how to use ganache under your fondant, not buttercream. You can either use a white chocolate ganache is harder to make because of the fat content, and it's more temperamental, but definitely, I don't know, a dark chocolate ganache, but use a ganache under your fondant. because it stops the bulging and it just is a better finish, a much better finish.
I don't have any problems with making white chocolate ganache.
Don't you?
Though now I've said this.
Yeah, you are lining yourself up.
But Paul Bradford, I don't know if it's on YouTube, does a fantastic video on how to make white chocolate ganache.
Oh, really?
Or any ganache. Yeah. And I've used his method.
Right.
For quite a few years now, and I just love it.
Don't have any problems.
And it's, shall I tell you?
Go on then. Go on. Spill the beans.
You boil your cream.
Yeah.
It's like blah, 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 and then you just pour it over your chocolate. Whereas before, I would put my chocolate and my cream in the same bowl and warm it in the microwave.
Right. So by doing that, you're, I suppose, releasing the fats. Because a lot of people complain that when they make white chocolate ganache, it goes greasy. And that's because of the fat in the white chocolate.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to make sure you keep mixing it as well. I don't have any of those. Oh my God, I got to make white chocolate ganache. I make it all the time.
Wow.
I just boil it, stick it on top of my chocolate chips.
And so what ratio do you use when you make white chocolate ganache?
3-to-1.
3-to-1. Okay.
Yeah.
So 2-to-1 for dark chocolate, 3-to-1 for white.
And if it's really, really, really hot, I might do 4-to-1.
Right. Yeah. Because white chocolate does melt in the heat a little bit more, doesn't it?
30 degrees is its melting temperature. I know this. It's happened to me.
I always remember, though, or it's something that Mary Berry says quite a bit. If you give a kid a bar of milk chocolate, them just holding it's going to melt it. So it doesn't take much to melt chocolate, and white chocolate melts much quicker than the rest.
God, so much quicker.
Yeah. And do you whip your ganache?
I have just started.
Me too.
Whipped ganache.
Yeah, I don't know what made me do it, but because I reheated some ganache and I had some lumps in it, and so I whisked it with my hand whisker, and then I'm like, this is so much better.
Heaven.
Yeah.
In your mouth.
Because ganache should be about the consistency of peanut butter when you're using it, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
So,
definitely.
But there's lots and lots of YouTube tutorials about ganache. But what ganache does is it creates a shell around your cake.
Yeah, because it sets as well. So if it just looks so smooth and sleek, and you can get your sharp edges.
It's so much better. And also you can get, when you get sharp edges, you can push down on the top of the cake slightly, and it doesn't make everything bulge out the sides.
I must put cream on my shopping list because I've got lots of ganaching this week.
So cream, what cream do you use?
Well, I tend to use Elmley.
Do you?
Yes.
Do you use the double? Okay.
Blue Elmley. Yes, I've always used that. And
it sits that can sit in the fridge for ages as well, can't it?
So I bought from my cash and carry.
Yeah.
About 12 tubs of it in one of those special packs.
Oh yeah.
And they lasted until the end of July. So they've long gone.
They've gone.
I've used them all up.
But there is nothing worse than having cream in your fridge and it lasts 5 days and you're like, oh, for God's sake, you think you've got cream.
It's the same. It's like clotted cream's another one as well. You think, oh yeah, I've got some clotted cream, go to have it, and it's off.
Yeah, because it's been there just that little bit too long. Do you buy posh chocolate or do you use supermarket chocolate?
Well, I buy posh chocolate.
Do you?
Yes, and I also buy middle of the road chocolate, and I also buy cheap chocolate. If I'm making a cheap cake, I will use the cheap chocolate. If I'm making a middle of the road cake, I'll maybe use a bit of this and a bit of the more expensive and combine them. But if I'm doing a wedding cake or a normal birthday cake,
you always use
the
posh.
Expensive.
And does it make a difference? Do you find it makes a difference?
Tastes. It just tastes so much richer. I'm not talking. And I don't necessarily think that there's a difference with the ganaching.
Yeah, so using
that's the same. I think it's just the taste, really, and a higher fat content and higher level, the amount of chocolate that is within it. If you buy the sheep chocolate, you get less cocoa in it.
And at the end, it is about, I mean, the thing is, we are making cakes, and yes, cakes have to look as good as you can make them look. But at the end of the day, they're there to be eaten. And I know everyone goes, oh, it looks too good to eat. No, just eat it. It's there to be eaten.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because that is the prize for me, is when someone tucks into your cake and they go,
yeah. I had an email the other day from a lady, and she said that they cut into it and they were hoping to have some the next day for some friends to come over, but it had all gone. And I'm like, that makes me happy. That makes me really happy. Yeah. That's what I want. That's why I'm making cakes.
When a bride and groom say to me, we didn't get to have any of our cake, it had all gone. That makes me happy.
That works.
Yeah. I like that, yeah. So, I think we've covered everything, haven't we?
Yeah, I think that's everything that I've got on my list. I mean, there's also, we're talking about butter. You were saying you get butter out of the fridge in the morning. Mm-hmm. If you forget to get butter out of the fridge, right? If you need to get your butter soft quickly, get your packet of butter, cube it all up, put it in a bowl, and put lukewarm water on it.
On the butter.
Yeah. So put it in lukewarm water, because butter is a fat and it won't get wet.
Oh, right.
Okay, because it's going to repel all that water. So put it in lukewarm water for about 5 minutes, then pour the water off, and you will have soft butter.
Wow. Oh, I'm going to try that.
Yeah, you'll have soft butter. And another one that I've heard is that if you put butter on a dish, if you've got a metal mixing bowl, so you know, like on a Kenwood, you get a metal mixing bowl. Yeah. Fill your mixing bowl with hot water, like boiling water, then empty it and then turn it upside down on your butter, and the heat and the steam within that mixing bowl will then melt your butter. But it won't melt it. So, if you put butter in a microwave, it just melts it, doesn't it?
Especially, and it melts it from the inside out as well, doesn't it?
So this will soften it. Yeah. But I use the pouring lukewarm water on my butter probably at least once a week.
I'm going to try that.
It works really well.
Let's see how it goes. Yeah. It's very interesting. Yeah.
So, and also I've recently bought a freezer, and I'm going to try that this week.
I just don't want to talk about it. I'm just too jealous. Too jealous for words.
I bought a small chest freezer. I've got a busy weekend coming up, and I'm going to do all my baking on Monday and Tuesday. We'll see how it goes.
You're going to have fun. I'm jealous.
And that's all because of Christine and Phil from Piborian.
Yeah.
Told us all about that when they were on the podcast.
Yes, let's go back and list. Which podcast was that, Bronya?
When was that? Let me just check. Episode 24.
Oh, yes.
Episode 24, Christine and Phil Jensen from Piborian.
They were very good.
And I think that's it. I think that's all the tips that I've got for the moment.
I've actually written down there's different types of baking. You've got the all-in-one method, the creaming method, the rubbing in method, the melting method, and the whisking method.
The melting method, is that when you melt the butter first?
I guess so, like profiteroles.
Yes. Someone recommended making chocolate cake with melted butter instead of creaming it. Never tried it. Maybe I will one day.
I've done a different chocolate cake recipe recently, but I can't remember what it was. But I didn't like it as much. Right. Everyone said it was as nice, but
you weren't impressed.
I just didn't have the love for it. No, it's not like your chocolate cake.
Our chocolate cake. We honed that recipe together. Definitely.
It's amazing. Yum, yum, yum. Oh, I have got one more thing. I turned the page. Look. I saw this and I thought I must say this. A bakester was once the proper word to refer to a female baker. So we're bakesters.
We're not bakers, we're bakesters.
Yeah.
How interesting. I didn't even realise there was a male and female version.
Nor did I.
I guess it's like an actor and an actress.
But you don't say actress anymore, do you?
No.
You say actor.
I'd quite like the idea of being a bakester. as well.
Hey, we're bakesters. You're my bakester. Wiki wiki woo.
Well, did you enjoy that?
It was good. It was good. Sorry to have to make you listen to it again, but we thought it was good.
Yeah.
We thought it was good, well worth a listen to.
Can I just say, in the section where I talk about ganaching and putting your pot on to boil and adding your ganache to it, I still do this. I haven't changed a thing.
Right.
The only thing I'd advise is to make sure you turn your pot off and don't go and have a shower.
Okay. Tell me about that.
Because I had cakes in the oven. I'd done all my baking. I got up early. I thought I'd do my baking, make my ganache, and then get dressed. And then I can get out of the shower, get dressed, and take my cakes out of the oven, sort of thing. I did have, I was all covered up.
Yeah.
I didn't do it naked.
Yeah, health and safety. Yeah.
So I got out of the shower, opened the door, and thought, what the hell is that smell? I rushed into the kitchen and opened the oven door because my cakes were in the oven. I was like, oh my God, my cakes are on fire because it was really quite pongy. And I'm like, what? And I'd left on really low heat.
And that was a white chocolate ganache.
£10 worth of white chocolate because I'd made double.
Oh, no.
No, I'd done one pot of cream. So there's one pot, so quite
and there's nothing worse than the smell of chocolate.
And the inside of the pan, I'd say, was about an inch deep with burn. And it's a really good pot. A really expensive one. So over the last few weeks, I've been, what's that bag of soda, that
Oh yes, bicarb.
No, the other one, caustic soda maybe. You put it down the
Oh
drains.
yeah.
So I've been doing that, and I'll come in with my chisel, chip, because I'm not throwing it away because it's a jolly good pot. So I've got about an inch left to do.
I what was it for? Someone recommended to me to use fabric conditioner.
Really?
In pots. I can't remember why. I can't remember what it was for, but someone recommended using fabric conditioner in a pot.
I'm going to Google that, see if it...
But I can't remember why, whether it's to get off burnt stuff or something, I'm not sure. I know because you use fabric conditioner to get a wallpaper off, but it wasn't wallpaper off of a pot.
No. So...
But there's something in fabric conditioner that it breaks down something, fabric conditioner.
Yeah. Fat? Burnt fat?
I don't know. Charcoal?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it was charcoal. I really didn't think I was going to be able to do it, but I'm proud of myself. I'm nearly there.
So that's an extra top tip today, people.
Yeah. Persevering.
Don't have a shower.
Yeah, don't have a shower. Don't think, I'm being really clever. I've got my cakes in the oven. Okay.
Yeah. Right, okay, so that is it for this week. We are going to do an update of next week's update of our baking hints and tips next week, and some other little other hints and tips.
Yeah.
If you want to hear more, we are going to chat a little bit more about some of the things we've just listened to over on Patreon. So if you want to head over there, it's patreon.com/the business of cake making.